Welcome into another episode of The Checklist, brought to you by Secure Mac. I'm Ken Ray.
I'm Nicholas Raba.
And I'm Nicholas Tacek.
Each week on The Checklist, we work to make the things that you do in your daily digital life more secure. As we record, the holidays are approaching, but we don't actually wait for Black Friday or Cyber Monday to shop online these days. Still, a lot of you who don't usually shop online will likely be clicking and buying this holiday season. Cyber Monday is the big one. In fact, it's estimated that 120 million people shopped online on Cyber Monday in 2015. That is a lot of gift shopping and a lot of opportunities for something to go wrong. While shopping online is convenient, it also carries some security risks. But guess what we're here to do? Make sure you can avoid those. On today's checklist, 5 things you can do to make your online shopping more secure. On the list, keep your security software up to date, shopping on mobile devices, using one credit card for all of your purchases, spotting deals that might be too good to be true, and finally, making sure that you're shopping on secure networks and avoiding public Wi-Fi. Let's start at the top, gentlemen. Keep your security software up to date.
So starting off here, keep all your security software up to date and ready to go before the holiday shopping season. And that makes sense that it should be your first step, right? You don't leave your house without locking it up or locking your car before you go into the mall. Just like we don't travel to other countries without proper vaccinations. So before you start your web shopping, you want to ensure all your software is up to date. Update your browser, whether it be Safari or Chrome or whatever other browser you're using. You want to take advantage of their latest security patches. And you want to also ensure that your local anti-malware software is up to date as well, just in case you run into some untrustworthy site offering that really good deal that could turn out to be risky. While that may seem low, it's better to be prepared for the worst than hope for the best when we're looking at secure online shopping.
And kind of along those same lines, make sure you're also running the latest updates for your operating system itself. Apple's released some security patches recently for both Macs and iPhones, so you'll want to make sure that you're running those latest updates too, which you can just click the Apple menu in the upper left-hand corner of your Mac and check for updates, or check the App Store on your iPhone or iPad. And then along the lines with anti-malware apps, before you do any of that online shopping, again, make sure your anti-malware app is up to date with the latest malware definitions, and then run a scan. You just want to make sure that you don't have any sort of malware on your system that could be keeping an eye out for that credit card you're about to enter when you make a purchase online. So good steps to take before you even think about adding something to your cart and checking out online.
Now, I remember when we were talking about securing a new Mac. You just bought a new Mac, and before you start going out and using it, there are a few things you want to do to make sure that it's secure. One of the things that you guys suggested was automatic updates, like from Apple. Would you actually, it sounds like you would probably suggest the same thing as far as your malware is concerned, correct? Or, as far as your anti-malware software is concerned, not your malware. Let's not make sure your malware is up to date.
A lot of the anti-malware apps these days do have automated updates, but make sure to check the preferences or settings for your particular security software to make sure that it's set up to check for and install updates automatically, just to make sure you're running the latest and greatest before you run that scan.
Now, we've talked plenty of times about how convenient everything is to do on a smartphone or on a tablet. Certainly, convenience-wise, the same would be true for shopping, but talk to me about the special precautions we need to take if we're planning to do some or even all of our shopping on mobile devices.
A lot of websites have kind of taken the initiative to make a decent mobile experience. If you go to the website, you get redirected to that mobile site, and for the most part, you can get your shopping done. Sometimes it's not the best interface, but a lot of those same companies do have apps in the App Store. Amazon's app, for example, is pretty awesome. It makes shopping pretty much a breeze. It's secure. So when possible, sometimes it's a good idea to use the mobile app specifically from the company. Some websites don't have that nice mobile interface and they still have the desktop site, and you're trying to zoom and see where you're going and it's impossible. So if there's an app available, go ahead and use it. You do want to make sure that you take a close look at kind of what permissions the app wants. If something's asking for your location, it's probably asking that so it can tell you where the closest store is. But if it's asking for your camera or something like that, and you don't know why it needs that type of access, go ahead and just don't allow it. Limit it basically to limit any exposure of your personal information when installing third-party apps from the App Store like that.
There's another thing, and you don't have this on your list, but this was actually something that came up in the news recently. There were a number of apps that ended up on the App Store that looked like they were from retailers or looked like they were from brands, but they were actually kind of piratey. They were basically using somebody else's information, like somebody else's IP or intellectual property, excuse me. So it might have looked like a Tommy Hilfiger app, and I'm using that name at random. I don't even think that was one. But it might have looked like a Tommy Hilfiger app, but they were only using the logo and some of the information. There were a few things they suggested, though, when you're looking at the apps online. I mean, Amazon should be pretty easy to spot. But if you've never downloaded the Amazon app before and you go to the App Store and there are no reviews for the Amazon app, that's probably not the Amazon app, because it's been out there long enough that there should be, some reviews, and probably some pretty good ones actually for the Amazon app. Same thing, kind of like we were talking about with the phishing emails that you get. If the logo looks a tiny bit off, or if the description of the app is not very not very descriptive, sometimes even bad punctuation or broken English or broken whatever language you happen to be observing in, it's kind of a bummer, because the App Store has always been this place that we assumed anything we downloaded from it was safe. But lately, that's been a tiny bit of an issue. One that also, I should say really quickly, that Apple is actually on top of. They've removed hundreds, if not thousands, of apps that it turns out weren't actually linked to the businesses they seem to be linked to. But it's still a good idea to keep an eye on some of that as well.
Exactly, and a good way to do that is also to check what the publisher is listed as in the App Store. You check the support link or the company website link. A lot of times they won't try and disguise those. Make sure it's going to the company's website. Check the version history to make sure it's not some, this just appeared in the App Store last week. No reviews, as you said.
Right.
Alternatively, go directly to the company's website. Majority of the companies will show you a little pop-up or something on the site itself that says, hey, we have a mobile app, and you can just click that link, which will bring you to the correct app in the App Store. As long as you make sure you're on the correct company site when you're doing that. It's a kind of chicken and the egg there, but make sure you're on the right site or the right app before you start shopping.
Yeah, I was going to say make sure you're on the right site, because some of these companies outsource their apps to be developed by other people. So when you're looking at the information, you're going, wait a minute. This name, although it says it's this company, says it's developed by this developer, and whether or not that's the case, you want to double check right there.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, again, just using them because they were the first. I have no idea why this is the first brand I thought of, but it's probably not Tommy Hilfiger that's going to have published the Tommy Hilfiger app. I mean, it might be listed as that, but they may have, contracted with a third party who is publishing it for them. So yeah, right. Go to their website, a link from their website to that app. Or again, just check the reviews. Check the reviews. If you've got years of reviews there, then that's probably the app. On the other hand, if it says it was published day before yesterday and there are no reviews, I guess the one thing, though, would be to make sure you check reviews for all versions, not just the most recent. Because of the updated most recent version yesterday, there may well be 0 reviews there. But then if you click, for previous versions, and you've got years and years of reviews there, then I guess you're on the right one. Now, we've gotten where we're going to shop, and we're ready to spend our money. You guys suggest using only one credit card for your web purchases.
So if this is an option for you, it's definitely a good idea. We understand that it may not be for everybody, but it makes it so you're able to keep track of your purchases easier. And if one of the retailers that you're visiting happens to be hacked or their data exposed, all you're going to have to deal with is changing one credit card versus 2, 3, 4, however many others you may have used. Plus, think of all the miles that you could have earned using that one credit card right there. Same thing, you want to try to avoid using debit cards because the debit card links directly to your account. Although it may have a better feel to it, I'm not running up debt, that sort of feel to it, it's a direct link to your account. So if one of those retailers do get compromised, then you don't have the same security and protection like you do with using a credit card. It's a lot more hassle going to your bank trying to get that money back versus filing a fraudulent charge with your major credit card company.
I believe there's kind of a different liability too for fraudulent charges with credit cards and debit cards. I think in the United States the limit's something like you're liable for $50 worth of fraudulent credit card charges. But with debit cards, if you immediately are contacting your bank about fraudulent charges, you can probably get them reversed. But if you don't notice, and I think it's 60 days or something like that, if a certain amount of time passes with a debit card transactions that are fraudulent, you're liable. You're on the hook for them. So again, a good idea not to be using your debit card directly when making online purchases, just in case that information would be abused. One instance where it's okay would be if you have it linked as a payment option for PayPal. You're setting that up just in PayPal, and if you're using PayPal itself to check out on a website, that's okay. PayPal will debit your account directly, and they've got the protection on their end. Just don't enter the debit card number itself on whatever random shopping site. But that's one instance where it's okay to be using a debit card for shopping online because it's not being used directly.
And make sure when you're checking out with PayPal that you're actually on PayPal's site, not entering your login credentials on some sort of phishing site.
Yeah, go back to the phishing episode to catch up on that stuff. Make sure you're up to date on identifying those scam sites.
A lot of good practices there.
Now, especially around things like Cyber Monday, and certainly as we go into the holidays, we have so many different people that we are buying for, or maybe we have a few people that we're buying for, but we're going to get them lots of stuff. We're always looking for the best deal, but then some deals may be, they may just be too good to be true. I mean, what kinds of things are we looking for here, and why are you trying to keep me from saving money on cool stuff?
Well, when you're shopping at the major retailers online, Amazon, Macy's, Walmart, anything like that, you kind of know what you're getting. You're protected by their company brand name. If something goes wrong, the company wants to make sure everything's going to be okay. If you're at a smaller website that you might not have, it might not be popular or out of the way type thing, there's a couple concerns there. First and foremost would be, is this site that has a deal that looks too good to be true really selling that, or are they a scam? You can sometimes search for reviews on a website, see if anybody's said, hey, this site ripped me off, or if there's any complaints against the site. That can be one way to check. Another concern with some of the smaller sites might be that they don't have as much experience in setting up the security and protection on their site as the major retailers do. So making sure that your credit card information is being processed securely and that they're not storing your credit card information in plain text on their server, or kind of making sure that everything is on the level when it comes to protecting the information you're using to make the purchase. You'd always want to make sure that anytime you're entering sensitive information, be it credit card or payment information or social security number or anything else, that the website has HTTPS instead of HTTP without the S. That indicates that the website's using SSL, secure socket layers, to secure your information in transit. If it's just a normal, plain old HTTP website address and you're entering your credit card information is going in plain text all the way across the network, and anybody who is watching that traffic can see your credit card information in plain text. If it's an SSL site, it protects it from that happening. a lot of times you'll see that little padlock, or some of the browsers will show like a green text for websites that are valid. Modern browsers will also generally warn you if a website's certificate is not secure, if it's been compromised, or if it's not trusted. And if you see anything like that, any warning from your web browser saying, hey, this certificate's not trusted, click cancel, click don't trust. Don't go ahead and enter your information. Just close that site. Forget about it. That deal is not worth identity theft or credit card fraud over. If you're looking for more kind of those small out-of-the-way deals, you could take a look at a site like Etsy, where it's more the handicraft stuff. If you're on eBay, it's a bunch of different people selling stuff, and you've got a lot of protection from eBay. But again, check the seller reviews. Make sure that they're not one-star reviews saying this person never sent me my stuff. Just do a little bit of homework. It might seem like you have to make that awesome purchase in the heat of the moment, but again, no deal is worth the risk of credit card fraud or anything else like that. So take the extra time to do your homework. It's the better idea in the long run.
It's that whole Cyber Monday, holiday time, buyer frenzy. You got to take a look at even the social media sites that are pushing these advertisements, or your friends are sharing these links. We got an email the other day from somebody who bought something they saw advertised on a popular social network, and then they didn't get it for a while. So then they did the research. They searched for the company name, finding out that company was selling not what was being advertised. It was a storage unit to expand their storage space on their laptop, and it said it was a certain size, and what they actually received was a smaller size, and you saw everybody's comments in here. All these social media sites and what you see people sharing, don't get too hooked into it. Take a look at the company names, even if the images look really professional, and take a couple minutes to research the company.
The one I hate is the countdown clock. I would imagine this is actually one that would be used by nefarious organizations, because, certainly it's used. Amazon, I think, uses it. There's like a certain amount of time where this deal is going to be good. And the whole point is to get people to jump on it really quickly, right? But it sets up a tiny bit of like anxiety. It sets up a bit of, I need to go ahead and quickly hit that. I need to go ahead and quickly decide. And I got to imagine that, if that works for people who are actually selling goods, it's got to work great for people who are only, who are selling knockoff goods or counterfeit goods, or maybe not even selling you anything, just really getting you quickly to go ahead and give them money. And, maybe hopefully you'll get something, or maybe like your friend, oh, it turns out not so much. Exactly. If the deal seems too good to be true, it probably is, especially online, as opposed to brick and mortar retailers. It's just way too easy for people to set up a website and scam some people out of money and disappear. Let's talk about the last one. And this is one, sort of like I said, I think in the last episode when we were talking about backups, this is another one that, you can kind of assume that this is always going to be something that you should do. But especially with this one, it's an important one to hit. Make sure that all of your shopping is done on secure networks, not on free Wi-Fi especially.
Yep, this one, it's a really easy one to remember. Just do all your shopping on secure networks. And the whole idea of taking your MacBook to a local coffee shop to do your shopping may seem good, but if you're using their public Wi-Fi, it's not as good. So make sure that you're using either your phone to tether your connection, or a VPN connection, or your home network. Do your shopping on a nice, secure, and trusted network. That way, nobody else on the network is seeing your credentials pass by as you're sipping your latte, buying everything online.
Although, as we pointed out before, even if you're using a VPN, but if you're sitting there at the Starbucks typing in all of your personal information, do also just look over your shoulder really quickly. Don't be so into that one thing that you're doing that, while you're keeping your digital data safe, somebody with eyes might still be able to see what you're doing.
just like how you kind of hide the keypad and ATM if you're, got people in line behind you and you're getting some cash out of the ATM, don't let people see your PIN number, your password, your credit card, all that stuff. It's just a good idea to keep that away from prying eyes.
Yes, make sure you hide your passwords on your phones too. How many times you just glance over going, password is 0880. Cool.
I cannot believe you just told everybody my password, dude.
Now's a good time to change it.
A couple things really quickly. I mean, as we have these discussions, when we start piling on other thing, it starts to feel overwhelming to the point that people might think, that's it, I'm done. Either I'm just not going online or I'm just not going to worry. Understand, all the stuff that we talk about here tends to be best practices stuff across the board. I mean, even the stuff, I joked a couple of times here that we've talked about. It seems like every week we're talking about making a backup. Well, that's because that's something, we should be doing all the time. But, as you get more well-versed in these things, as you go through, the various checklists with us, hopefully these don't become, chores that you have to do before the next thing you want to do online. Rather, they just become kind of best practices as we move through. Kind of like what we hit today with the shopping. Because, look, holiday shopping is stressful enough just trying to make sure that what you're getting is the right thing for someone. You don't want to add the stress of... losing access to your payment information or spending $1,000 on something that maybe should have only cost you $10, and it doesn't even arrive. So we will have these available for you again to check out online, as well as a little bit more in-depth information, should that be required. The website to find that, of course, is securemac.com/checklist. I'll give you that address again. It is securemac.com/checklist. If you have another question that you would like to send us, a follow-up question, or maybe some topic you'd like to hear us hit at some point, it is checklist@securemac.com. That email address again is checklist@securemac.com. And if you can't remember that, remember this. You're listening to The Checklist by Secure Mac. And we'll talk to you next week.